Willkommen, welcome, bienvenue. La radio du festival Bildrausch.
Bienvenue à Bildrausch, bienvenue sur Film Explorer pour notre traditionnelle série de podcasts dédiée au Festival de cinéma de Bâle. Nous avons courageusement installé nos studios en plein air sur la terrasse du Stadtkino, le lieu emblématique de la manifestation. Je dis courageusement parce que la météo est aujourd'hui un peu capricieuse et incite donc à la pratique sans modération du cinéma en salle. Je suis Nicolas Bézard et j'ai l'honneur de partager cette antenne avec les auteurs, autrices et journalistes Öykü Sofuoglu et Giuseppe di Salvatore, dont les voix sont délicatement mises en son par notre maestro Olivier Legras. Bonjour Faraz Fesharaki.
Hello.
Et merci beaucoup d'être avec nous. Vous êtes un directeur de la photographie et réalisateur d'origine iranienne. Vous avez étudié les arts dramatiques et le cinéma à Téhéran auprès du grand cinéaste Abbas Kiarostami. Puis vous êtes venu en Allemagne pour étudier à l'Académie allemande du cinéma et de la télévision de Berlin. What Did You Dream Last Night, Parajanov est le premier long métrage que vous dirigez. Et quel long métrage, en effet, vous y instaurez un dialogue numérique par webcam interposé entre vos parents restés en Iran, votre cousin expatrié en Autriche et vous-même, résident à Berlin. Et avec cette manière pixelisée et claustrophobe, vous parvenez à raconter le quotidien d'une famille, mais aussi l'histoire récente d'un pays, d'un système, la réalité d'une révolution, la mélancolie de l'exil. C'est un geste de cinéma très fort, parce que dans le flux de ces discussions de tous les jours avec vos proches et de ces images appauvries par la distance, eh bien, beaucoup de choses ne sont pas dites. Et c'est précisément dans ces non-dits, dans ces silences, que naît la poésie d'un film qui n'oublie pas non plus de nous faire rire parfois et de nous toucher beaucoup. J'ajoute que What Did You Dream Last Night, Parajanov, est présenté ici à Bildrausch juste après qu'un autre cinéaste iranien, Mohammad Rasoulov, ait reçu le prix spécial du jury à Cannes pour son film Les graines du figuier sauvage, qui entretient sur le fond beaucoup de similitudes avec votre long métrage. Mais votre manière à vous d'évoquer la répression orchestrée par les mollahs est particulièrement douce et subtile. Elle s'incarne en pointillé, notamment dans la figure de votre mère, Mitra, dont on apprend entre une chanson fredonnée et une discussion sur le goût des kakis qu'elle a été emprisonnée par le régime pendant quelques années. Cette mère à qui c'est si difficile de dire que vous l'aimez, comme vous l'écrivez dans un des nombreux intertitres qui encadrent les séquences, et peut-être d'ailleurs qu'on fait du cinéma pour cela, pour parvenir enfin à dire à ses proches qu'on les aime. Toujours est-il, Faraz Fesharaki, que je voulais vous poser une question pour commencer notre entretien. Je voulais savoir si cette manière d'embrasser dans un même mouvement, de faire tenir ensemble une chronique intime et familiale et le portrait d'une situation sociale et politique d'un pays, eh bien, je voulais savoir si c'était une volonté qui était présente dès le début de l'écriture de ce film. Faraz Fesharaki, in this movie, you combine an intimate family chronicle with a wider look at the situation of your country. Was this intention from the beginning when you start to write the film?
First of all, hello and thank you very much for having me here. I unfortunately don't speak French. I'm very curious about your introduction. I was trying to understand with the words I could understand. But starting from your question, actually, I was not intending to make this film when I started to capture these images or to collect these images, let's say. I was not really intending to make a film, so I was not really making things in the first place on purpose. This is just part of the reality of the country and the situation I'm living or I was living in, that politics or big issues are very much present in your everyday life. So it is they are so much together. They are so this tide is so strong that you can't even separate them. So this was not a decision. This is really how the life, at least in Iran, is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Maybe about this intentionality, I might ask during the process of like this, I think it's a really long project, and you kept filming your family for a long time, and you also film yourself. I mean, it's not filming, but like registering, recording your images. And I think at some point, do you think there was a performative aspect that kind of played in while you were discussing with your parents? Because I remember when you told us in Q&A that they know that I was going to make a film about this. So do you think there was a distance between their everyday behaviors and the way they interacted with you in front of the camera, and even your own gestures or mannerism changed gradually? How maybe you can talk about these process a bit?
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, this performative quality, what my parents might have in the film, or the audience would think that they have this performative quality, it's part of their being. So they didn't. I think the only one in these conversations, in this collected material, who was doing something for the camera was me. And that's the reason why, or one of the reasons why I tried to keep myself out of the film. I mean, there are very few images of myself because I couldn't stand it. I couldn't tolerate watching myself playing or for the camera. But my parents know. They kept on forgetting that a camera is witnessing them. That a webcam is just watching all these everyday life moments, and this performative is also there when the camera is not running.
Yeah, I was very struck, for example, for a scene where you sleep, and also I don't remember, one of your parents also sleep, and that's probably now the question, was it mise en scène or not? I can really imagine that it was not, in the sense that I have the impression that you have the habit, or you have still the habit to keep it, the Skype, or I don't know, the communication system, so open, and just being there. So the importance of being there, not necessarily discussing or not necessarily speaking. And for me, it was such a strong scene because of this feeling of trust and feeling of the other, because camera is there, we are exposed anyway, but you have completely trust in the other person. So was something that happened actually, or probably happened in other contexts that you wanted to recreate? So
that's fun. I mean, there are things actually in the film that didn't happen. There are lots of things that didn't happen, and I created them, but not as images, but more in the editing. We can also talk about that. But back to this very special thing, or this very example, it really happened. And this is something that I liked about the material when I watched them after a few years, was that we were spending time together. There was no purpose behind these calls. After the pandemic, now everybody or most of the people knows this being together in Zoom, but it's very much purpose based. There is always a purpose why we meet in Zoom. There is something to discuss, or this homeworking thing. But in our case, no, we were just, I had lots of material where nobody talks, but this camera is still going, or the Skype call is still going on. I'm washing the dishes, and my father has just slept in front of the camera or in front of the computer, because he was waiting too long for me. These kind of things.
The film gradually becomes more complex and intense without resorting to dramatic effects. On the contrary, it's through the silence that creeps into the conversation and the liquid fragility of the pixelated image that emotion arrives and surprises. It was important for you to show that suggestion, silence and metaphor are sometimes more powerful than demonstration.
I mean, metaphor, I know that there is no way around it, but I was trying not to use metaphors. But But on the other hand, of course, I mean there is something in this, let's call it poor image, as Hitoshi Tyler calls it. There is a fragility in it, and an abstraction in it, and a melancholy in it as well. That it is, for me, it is much closer to the reality, whatever it means. But at the same time, it is so fragile, and it is like you have the feeling that I have the feeling when I watch these poor images, when I close my eyes and open it again, they might have just vanished, because you see so little of what's in front of the camera. And at the same time, you have the feeling that it is very real what you're. So this kind of contrast and paradox, I find it very interesting to have images which are very real, but at the same time very dreamy, and very loose. And at some point, it becomes like a painting. So it is very real and very unreal at the same time. And of course, it could be metaphor of lots of things: distance, relationships, humanity. But I don't, or I didn't want to think that way. I mean, it's totally fine if people read it that way. But for me, it was more, this is one of the words I understood from your introduction, like some certain poesy in these poor images.
Yeah, I say metaphoric because at the end the movie has the intelligence to leave its closed door setup and invest the Iranian landscape, the real landscape, in a beautiful metaphor that plays on the return of the water to the site of a dry up river.
Yeah.
This openness to the real, to the present world was important for you at the end of the movie? Yeah.
Yes, sure. Yes, I mean, I think that this real world is present the whole time. Like it reflects itself in our conversation, or that was actually at least my hope that it does. But yes, sure. I mean, I needed to make it a bit more concrete at the end.
Maybe I can jump on the fragility that you mentioned, because the image, the pixels also bear the traces of the time that passes, and especially with your father, I think his posture, his figure changes a bit during the time. And did you also, like while editing, thought about the time passing, and how was the relationship with the time actually during the editing?
To be honest, I was not really trustful to the time, like to keep the chronology of the time. For me, I mean, there are also scenes which are not chronologically, like they might be something which happened actually 2016 came before something which happened 2013. For me, it was important that I tried to make it edited in a way so that the audience doesn't necessarily think about time, gets more a feeling of a fluid sense of life, which is clear. I mean, the time has by. I mean, people become also older. You can clearly see that in the film, but I more deliberately tried to work against time, so that there is no clear chronology of the time. So lots of people ask me when did it start? When is the first conversation? When is the last one? And I like this question because it is at the end a bit, for me, independent of the time. It could be timeless.
Actually, from the point of view of viewer, the perception of time in your film was also interesting, because of this, I have the impression that there is an atmosphere of suspension, and that, from my point of view, create or makes the sentence or some sentences more dramatic. So it's also starting to be dramatic here with the rain because it's starting now to rain quite heavily. But we resist and continue to discuss. No, really, this idea that there is a sort of suspension and then there is something coming up. There is an emergence. And one of these emergences that I like very much and probably can put in contact actually, or coming back to the question of politics, if I could say, this is a statement of your father that is very, very wise statement about looking around you if you want to do a film and not just starting from in a top-down attitude or with big question, but just looking around you. It is exactly what you did, just looking around you, the family. And so I was just thinking, probably you are the only son of a Marxist person that is still Marxist. Is it true?
My father would be very happy to hear what you just said. I'm definitely not the way Marxist as my father is or was, and I never called myself a Marxist. So this is new to me, but I like it. I mean.
No, it's really because of this starting from the normal daily life.
Sure,
normal people,
sure.
yeah.
No, I totally understand what you mean. Of course, I mean, there is a funny thing that, and I think lots of people could relate with it, that you actually rebel against certain things of your parents, but at some point, in a way, you follow some basics or some principles that they taught you. And this is what I'm not sure if people hear us now with this storm, but this is something that happened as well. Like I'm always trying to rebel against my father, also against his ideas and so on. But at the same time, you're totally right. I'm I'm doing exactly what he wished me to do, or he thinks is the right thing to do, and I was always saying no. Yeah, this is
Probably the only person in the actually there are four of you that is something different is your cousin or friend. So
yeah.
because he has another character or another attitude, and so very affectionate to you and to probably also to your family, but at the same time, more rebellious, more. I don't know. Was it because that's something special? I mean, it's part of the family in a sense.
Yeah.
Was from the very beginning that you decide to involve and integrate him in this very intimate space?
That was not a decision. That was, I mean, he is my best friend. I mean, he's part of the family, but also my best friend. And it's funny because my father always tells me one thing that he doesn't understand about me is this friendship, because we are so different. And my father thinks that, Rahi is an unserious person who makes too many jokes and doesn't take things serious. But for me, he is my other half. Like, I think he is what I sometimes wish I could be. At the end, he also went back to Iran, something that I wish I could have the courage to do. He had the courage to do that.
Speaking of the rebelling to the father, I think there's an interesting aspect to the narrative as well, because I think in the second half of the film, you kind of rebel against the narrative structure of the film, and you introduce something quite different than the first half of the film. And maybe you might talk about that personal opening, because it's quite personal, and till that moment we barely hear what your personal thoughts about yourself, your life, and that's like bearing yourself in the second half is, I think, really interesting, and maybe you want to talk about it a bit.
Sure. But first, about this rebelling against father, I mean, there is something interesting I can say is that actually I wanted to, or I was doing another film, and in this other film, it was the story of my father as a young Marxist. And we even shot that, and then I realized by editing that I don't like the material, especially because I was again as a son making his father into a hero, and I realized it's a bit late, but also not too late, that I'm doing this patriarchal attitude. I'm redoing that the son is the one who tells the heroic story of the father. So I stopped and tried to do another film where more is about my mother than my father. And the interesting thing is that my father actually doesn't like the film at all, because he thinks that I should have shown him as a hero, as an activist hero, and not as a simple person about whom people would laugh. And this fact was for me very interesting. I mean, this rebel also took place in that way, how I narrated or how I chose to narrate the story of my parents, and not to make him a hero as he once wanted him to be, and tell the story of my mother, what she doesn't want to tell a lot.
Just before about the second half, I was also curious about abandoning projects, because I think it's quite hard to like let go as a creative person of projects, and maybe you want to talk about this letting go and reintegrating, because
Yes. Well, I mean, actually, I was already done with the editing of the first part of the film, and I had the feeling that this is not finished. But I couldn't also really explain it. Why not? I had the feeling that it needs another level to comment on the first level, because the first part, which is the longest part of the film, is are these conversations. But I had the feeling if the film stays only on that level, and by the way, I always also get the feedback of different people that the film should have been only that. But to me, it was incomplete. I had the feeling that I need to add another level to give a clue or to give another way of reading the first part. That's why I did these letters. Like I turned the conversation between, like these video conversations between us three, like me and my parents, to letter exchange between me and my mother. And also at the end, as you were mentioning, the river and the metaphor of the river. And that brought the film to me, like it helped me to finish the film, because before that I had the feeling that only these conversations are not enough. They need another way of reading it.
In the movie, there is a funny reference through your father to the Abbas Kiarostami sunglasses.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the importance of this filmmaker to you, and about his teaching when you were a student?
Yeah. I mean, Abbas Kiarostami is the reason why I wanted to become a filmmaker. It's like I can just say it as clear as that when I watched his films, I've completely was mesmerized. And then, I went to his workshop for 2 years, and I learned very much, very, very much. And my father knew it always, how important Kiarostami is to me. So that is where the joke comes from, because he had these sunglasses telling me I want to look like him, look like Kiarostami, so that you also take me serious. But no, Kiarostami is, and I think there are different levels in the film where you can, or one can see roots of Kiarostami. I mean, maybe the most clear one is this sound that you hear on different, because every conversation is like separated with a certain sound, and this is what I got from his film 10, because in 10 there is also like different conversations, and in between there is always this sound which is like a box, or how do you call it, like a announcement of a fight, and in many other levels as well. For me, it's I always go back to to the poesy of how he looks at the everyday life, at the simple life, and how very very normal scene could be poetic. This is also something that I hope I learned a bit from him.
He showed this in Five, for example, with nothing, almost nothing. He can make some poesy and poetry pictures.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I feel like lots of people must come to you and speak their relationship with their family and relate maybe and talk about their experiences. And I think it's an emotionally heavy burden to keep all these reactions with you all the time. So maybe you can talk about your process of after post film with the audience and with the reactions, and how do you deal with them, and how do you actually protect yourself? Because
I'm very happy for the question. Thank you. Yeah, I mean that's totally true. It has both sides. Like like few weeks ago, I showed the film in Berlin in Cinema Transtopia, and then lots of people came to me. Like at least 9 people came to me and told me their father or their parents are exactly the same as my parents, or their father or their mother is like. I know they were from all over the world, and I was asking myself how could it be possible, like that. We are 70 people in here, and 10 of them have exactly the same characteristic of parents, and this happens always to me. And I can only explain it as when you cross certain borders of being personal, then you also let other people find themselves in your narration. Then you start to become a general. Like then you give these people or all people, the audience, the feeling of finding themselves in your very personal story. This is a beautiful part of it for me. But as you were also saying, the difficult part of it is first that most of the conversation I have about the film are about my personal life, which I mean, this one is a very, very good one. I'm happy about your questions. But most of the time it is about my personal life and not really about the film, which I totally understand, but it's a bit sad. And it is also difficult because sometimes people come after the film to me and also share very personal, heavy stories with me, and I don't know how to react. Yeah.
But I will say, to continue and probably start also to finish our discussion, that in the last scene actually of the film, with the river, more or less metaphoric. Anyway, it's also a concrete fact that this dried river, gets some water again, and that's not in the intimate, in the private space, but it's in a public space. There are other people, and I like very much this gesture, independently of the metaphor. Just because of this, because in a way you bring your private story outside. At the same time, the end of the film is in a public space. It's something outside with probably exposure to other people again, and probably I don't know. I don't want again to come back to the metaphor, but this presence of the water. What is now? Today for you, how could you rephrase this image?
Yes, maybe in the way that, I mean, my understanding and my taste, let's say, in cinema has also changed a lot. I can't somehow really cope with films which kill the hope in me. Like also the films which deal with reality, with society, with documentaries, but also not documentaries, but the word is disappointing, it's disgusting. But just watching that, because there are very lots of so-called political films which are about political issues, but after these films are finished, I have the feeling that I lost my last tiny drop of hope and strength, because I was just watching a very dark, bitter image of the reality, which is true, but it's not helping me to resist. And I have the feeling that we need other. I mean, there are also lots of beautiful other films which are not necessarily call themselves political films, but they give you some sort of passion to life, and some sort of ideals and hope that you can then resist this terrible life. And I think I was at least trying a bit to finish my film in that way, that even the imagination of the river which can get water again maybe is in itself beautiful enough to keep on resisting.
And it's a performative coincidence now because rain is going to stop. There is also some light, probably sun, but under our feet there is a river, literally a river of water. So just to inform our people that hear us, how we are, which condition we are. But yeah, I think we are going to slowly.
Yeah, let's wrap up. Maybe I don't know if you have other questions, but. No?
I think it's it's really with this moment of hope we can thank you very much for your film first of all, and then for the disponibility to discuss with us. But
thank you for having me
Thank
here
you.
and for the great questions and the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Willkommen, welcome, bienvenue. La radio du festival Bildrausch. Fire in the sky, fire in the sky, fire in the sky, fire in the sky, fire in